Hey, what's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a horror thriller film, The Craziest. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins at a farm town called Ogden Marsh in Iowa. It's a typical day for a baseball match until Farmer Rory walks on the field with a gun, intervening the whole game. Sheriff David and Deputy Russell immediately address Rory to de-escalate the situation. David slowly approaches Rory while persuading him to drop the gun, but Rory only stares at him and raises the gun to shoot him. David instinctively acts to danger, so he dispatches Rory on the spot. After the incident, the view zooms out to overview the town map from a POV of a military satellite camera. Subsequently, 2 military planes soar in the sky, carrying military forces on board. At night, David delivers Rory to the pathologist at the funeral home for an autopsy. David reckons Rory had relapsed and returned to drinking again, which is what he expects from the test result. Then Russell walks into the office to tell David that Rory's wife and son are waiting for him outside. David meets them to apologize for what he did, and he explains Rory was drunk when he shot him. But the wife doubts it because Rory quit drinking 2 years ago. Enraged, she slaps David for recklessly shooting an innocent man, and then emotionally walks out with her son. The following day, David can't sleep because of what happened, so he works all night preparing a nursery room for their coming baby instead. His wife, Judy, sees him carpentering on the porch, so she comforts him and says he did the right thing with Rory. David then goes to his office in the morning, where he receives a call from the pathologist. He is told that Rory is negative from alcohol content, and therefore makes Rory's wife right that Rory was not drunk. Consequently, David returns to the baseball field and feels regret surge in him. He tries to talk to the school principal about the situation, but the principal is strangely unresponsive and quiet. Meanwhile, Judy addresses a concerned resident who worries that her husband, Bill, is unwell. So Judy examines Bill, whose vital signs are normal, but displays paleness, quietness, gawking, and repetitive vocabulary. Judy notices the resident's concern, but she can't do anything since his overall health is fine. At night, Bill remorselessly imprisons his own family in their closet and then burns their house to kill them. The following day, David and his wife rush to the disintegrated farmhouse where Bill lives. While the firefighter reports to David that Bill has killed his family, Judy demands Bill answer why he murdered them. However, Bill only ignores her and impudently whistles while gawking, as if he didn't just kill his family. In the afternoon, David and Russell return to the station. Russell notices Bill standing still inside the cell for hours. David mentions that Rory stared at him too, just like Bill now. Suddenly, they receive a report from 3 hunters about a dead body they discover in the swamp. And so, the 2 policemen and the pathologist immediately travel to the swamp to investigate the body. They learn the body is a pilot, but his plane is missing. So they search the nearby river and discover the military aircraft sank in the river a few days ago. The view zooms out again to reveal the satellite screen. The screen prompts an order that says, "Initiate containment protocol." David and Russell return to town, and they suspect the contaminated water from the river is affiliated with the abnormalities occurring in their town. David worries things might escalate to the worst, so he addresses the issue with the mayor to temporarily cut off the water supply for an investigation. But the mayor denies his request because it will affect their local farm's business. David decides to disobey and risks his job for the sake of everyone's health and welfare, and so he cuts off the water supply, hoping it prevents the situation from turning worse. Back at the station, Russell notices that Bill rots and bleeds on the floor. David joins beside him as they inspect his body when Bill unexpectedly jolts upright and tries grabbing them both. David tries to use the telephone, and Russell uses the internet on the computer, but all the services and connections are down. David leaves the station and goes out on the street. He senses the place is strangely barren and quiet, except for a grown woman cycling while singing worship songs. From across the street, David hears camera shutters originating from a black van. David tries to chase after the vehicle, but it quickly catches on and drives away. Suddenly, David hears noises inside the funeral home, so he goes inside to check if something's wrong. He goes into a room where he finds the corpses have sewn eyes and mouths. Then he hears a covered body moving, so he unveils the sheet and discovers the body is still alive but is sewn already. So he cuts the threads on his mouth, who quickly warns him to look behind. The pathologist strangely attacks David with an automated saw, but David acts fast as he entangles the cord around the pathologist to lean the saw to himself. The pathologist dies after cutting himself, but the saw continues to roll toward David. Luckily, Russell enters on time, where he unplugs the saw from the socket. At night, David wants his wife to leave the town to be safe, but during their conversation, Judy senses someone outside their house. In a quick second, military forces raid every farmhouse and group residents into 2 sections. The first section is free from infection, and the second one is presumed infected CRAZIES. But they examine them first for symptoms, such as high temperature or fever. During the examination and division, the medical staff separates Judy from David because she has a high temperature, but they ignore the fact that it's caused by her pregnancy. Afterward, the medical team ties blue bracelets onto the uninfected residents and sends them to the Grand Central, whereas they strap suspected infected residents on gurneys and then send them to school for quarantine. At the Grand Central, David can't let himself be apart from his wife because she's pregnant, so he escapes from the Grand Central and travels back to his office, where he coincidentally reunites with Russell. Russell tells David that he escaped from the military after they spiked his patrol car in the middle of the road. Meanwhile, the infected residents, whom the soldiers refer as craziest, regroup and surge an attack on the school. The military forces and medical personnel are forced to retreat and evacuate the perimeter, where they blatantly desert the confined residents inside the classroom. Judy wakes up only to discover that the military abandoned them. She searches the room and encounters her assistant from the clinic. They try to escape from the bondage, but their noise only attracts the crazy principal, who's holding a pitchfork. After killing 2 residents in the room, the school principal then approaches the assistant, but Judy calls for his attention to stop him from piercing her assistant. It works because the principal now approaches her next, and he's about to stab her until a gunshot erupts from the hallway that goes straight into the school principal. He falls dead as shit, whereas David and Russell enter the room to save Judy and her assistant. The 4 survivors finally reunite, and they plan to go back to the central town, hoping that the military buses are still available. So they search across the street for working vehicles, but they disappointingly find all cars are booted. The survivors then decide to go to David's home, so they can use David's patrol car. The 4 survivors journey on foot until night, where they encounter the assistant's boyfriend and his mother, who are still alive at their farm. They want to bring them along, but military forces unexpectedly break into the boyfriend's farmhouse. The soldiers drag his mother outside their farmhouse, which triggers him to run and save his mom. However, the soldiers reckon he is a craziest, so they dispatch and incinerate him alongside his mother as part of the protocol. The military forces then do a final sweep before leaving. One soldier goes to the barn where the 4 survivors hide, and David punches the soldier the moment he enters to inquire about whatever's happening in their town. The soldier admits they were just sent to the town without explanation and were expected to follow orders blindly. He confesses he wouldn't agree to come in the first place if he knew gunning down innocent people was part of the operation. At the end, the soldier promises he won't disclose their existence to their commander, and so David lets him go to reunite him with his comrades. The soldier keeps his promise as he tells his comrade that the barn is clear. The following day, the survivors arrive at David's house. The 2 men repair the patrol car, whereas Judy restocks and reminisces in their nursery room. It's time to leave, but David notices his wife is missing. So he goes inside the house and finds his wife tied to a chair. David feels an impact on his body as someone knocks him down. He recovers quickly and sees Rory's wife and son break into their home to avenge Rory. The wife stabs David's hand on the floor, but the wound doesn't stop David from saving his wife. He gathers all his strength to pull his impaled hands and stab her in her neck. Meanwhile, Rory's son nearly kills Judy, but Russell shoots him from the ground outside through a window. The assistant and Russell join them upstairs to help the lovers. Russell then notices Rory's wife and son are still breathing, so he fires them multiple times to be safe. However, his sudden aggressiveness bothers Judy, and she suspects that Russell might be infected. The survivors soon flee the town, but their escape is interrupted by a military chopper patrolling in the sky. The survivors accelerate the car and hide inside a car wash. However, they're still vulnerable to the attack as their car suddenly locks in place and the whole car wash activates. While the sealed car moves to the end, the craziest attack their car and kill Judy's assistant by hooking and hanging her to the ceiling. The car washing ends, the assistant is dead, and their patrol car exposed on the road suddenly blows up as the chopper drops a bomb on it. The trios force themselves to walk again. During their travel, they notice Russell's spiked patrol car on the roadside. They try to salvage the car, but it's pointless. Just then, a black SUV emerges from afar, and David intends to shoot down the driver and steal the car, but Russell has another thing in mind. He takes the spike strip and throws it on the road to disable the approaching vehicle. The car flips over, damaging the car and injuring the driver inside. David then grabs the driver and interrogates him about the whole fiasco. The driver discloses that the sunken cargo plane in the river contained the rhabdovirida prototype, a virus known as rabies. Judy recognizes it as the biological weapon, named Trixie. However, the whole interrogation agitates Russell, so he impulsively shoots the driver dead. David gets mad at Russell for killing the driver because he's not done talking to him yet. The two friends face off with their guns, but then Russell reminds David he had already saved him thrice. David can't argue with that, but he knows very well that Russell is indeed infected. At first, David wants to kill Russell on the spot, but Russell begs him to spare him for a few more hours and allow him to walk with them for the last time. At night, the trios reach a military roadblock. Russell then offers to distract the soldiers, while the lovers sneak past behind them. Sadly, the trio becomes a duo now that Russell calls the attention of the soldiers and lets them shoot him. Meanwhile, the lovers successfully sneak past the soldiers and eventually reach the Grand Central. However, disappointment dawns upon their minds at the sight of the barren town. There's no one around except empty convenience stores and shops. David then leaves his wife alone outside as he goes inside a garage to search for their ride out of town. Not long after, he finds a semi-truck parked in the garage. He then joins his wife, who's strangely crying in front of military cargo trucks. David then looks at the trucks, and fear creeps on his body upon seeing the pile of uninfected residents dead and burnt to crisp. Judy wants to give up because they'll end up dead anyway, but David remains hopeful that they can still escape through the truck he has found. However, Judy snaps at his annoying positivity, and David goes quiet to listen to her. He then sits down with her and assures her that he'll be with her whatever she decides. The lovers reconcile and come to an agreement that they're leaving the town with the truck. So David restocks drinkable water, clothes, and searches for the truck key in the shop's office. However, during his search, he hears from a walkie-talkie about a 10-minute missile countdown ordered by the military. Suddenly, the lights turn off as two crazy employees try to trap and attack the lovers during their escape. The movie ends with David and his wife triumphantly annihilating the craziest in the shop. Soon after, they flee from Ogden Marsh via truck. While driving away, they hear the military countdown reach 0 from a walkie-talkie. Just then, a bomb detonates in the town, and its explosion reaches and impacts their truck, causing it to flip over. The unusable truck forces the lovers to walk their way to Cedar Rapids. Eventually, the lovers reach Cedar Rapids on time. Unfortunately, the view zooms out again to reveal the military satellite ordering another containment protocol, like what happened at Ogden Marsh. A bonus clip from the news depicts that the virus has also reached and infected Cedar Rapids. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.